Hi everybody, welcome to Wednesday webinar, your bit of inspiration during the week. So today we're going to hear from Areeba and she's going to talk to us about why she thought the word proactive was so important to her studies. So here we go, we're going to listen to Areeba. Okay, off we go. We're going to listen to Areeba.
So I'm a third year student on a 4-year degree program, and I'm really grateful to be able to talk to all of you. I've been asked to talk about something that I didn't like or something that I would have changed during my degree, or just student life in general. So, what me and some of my peers found, what I found especially in my third year, was so in my third year, because I was doing optional modules that I really enjoyed. So what we found was that a lot of us wanted more than just the 1 hour for seminar discussions. This was because we often found that the broad topic that we were discussing, it was often broken down into 7 or 8 questions, and we were either able to discuss 3 or 4 questions maybe in detail, or we would be able to discuss all 7 but not in as much detail, and we would have to kind of rush through them. So what I tried to do earlier this year for one of my modules is set up a study group. I set up a group on WhatsApp and included 3 or 4 of my peers, and in that we would sort of start discussions just whenever we sort of felt like it. We would just start a chat, or we would put up a Zoom link and all of us would get together on Zoom, and we would able we were able to discuss the topic in a lot more detail, and all the topics, the subtopics that we didn't get to discuss in class. So this is something that really helped me with my motivation, because I found that a lot of us in that smaller discussion group, because we had a lot more time, we were much more able to freely discuss what specifically interested us about that topic. And that sort of reminded us why we were doing that module in the first place. So I found that was really helpful for motivation. And in that, we were able to discuss what we found interesting, what our motivations for studying that module was, and cover a lot more material, which helped us gain a lot more fresh perspectives for exams as well as coursework. So it provided us with a lot more material for critical analysis, which was really helpful. So I would definitely recommend setting up a study group in any way, shape, or form, whether it's in person or on online, and just trying to get the most out of your degree, because at the end of the day, you are paying a lot of money for it. And if 1 hour isn't covering all the material that you want to for the exams, then you need to be more proactive. And setting up a study group, I found, was quite an easy way that I could do that. So my advice in one word. So, okay, my advice in one word would probably be proactivity. I hope the idea about a study group, just a small WhatsApp group, helps, and it helps all of you to stay motivated.
Wow, Areeba, that was brilliant. What I really liked about what Areeba had to say is there's this concept with students that I've paid a lot of money for a course, and therefore, if I just go to the lectures, go to the seminars, I'm going to do brilliantly in the course. And you saw from Areeba's experience, admittedly at year 3, that she realised at that stage, look, there's more to getting a good grade than simply going to the seminar and going to the lectures. You have to go beyond that. You have to really take control of your self-study. And that's what Areeba and her friends did. They set up their self-help group. They set up a study group. They discussed the topics in detail. And just by having a small group of people that you can talk openly and freely with, and say, I really don't get this topic. What does this mean? What does that mean? I read this case. Does it mean this? And someone else will say, no, it means this. And then you go and get your books and you both look at it and you work out what it means. And those sessions are memorable because what they're doing is they're cementing that knowledge in your brain. And Areeba also went on to the second positive. It really galvanizes your motivation because you're doing all the things you're going to do when you go into practice. You're doing research, you're communicating, you're thinking critically, and you're doing it in a group of people that are supportive and that are on the same journey as you. And so, there's 2 ways to go. You go to class, you do your lectures, you do your case, and then you get, I didn't get everything. We didn't cover all the stuff in enough detail. Or you take control and say, okay, I paid a lot of money. I need to come out of this with a great degree because there's lots of competition out there. And so I'm going to go beyond just doing the basics. I'm going to make sure that I control what I learn, how much I learn, how much detail I go into. Yeah, seminars, workshops, they're a foundation, but you need to go beyond that. So, have your workshops, have your seminars, have your lectures, and then go into detail in your study groups and really begin to understand the detail and the difficulty and the critical analysis of the subject. Because it's only when you really truly get the subject, and no tutor could put that subject in your head as detailed and as memorable as you can in a study group, that you can then have the confidence to go to assessments or do your written work knowing that you really understand that subject in detail. I love the fact that Areeba took control of her study and she exercised proactivity to make sure that she got what she needed in order to do as well as she could on her course. Now, unlike Areeba in her 3rd year, you have the opportunity to do that at undergraduate level and the 1st year of your professional studies. Do not hesitate and do not wait. I know some people say, I don't know anybody, I don't have people to study with. Honestly, it doesn't matter whether you've gone back to face-to-face tutoring, whether you are online tutoring. You can send an email to the group and say, look, I want to set up a study group. And invite people to it. If 3 people turn up, that's a fantastic number. Just start it. It could be via WhatsApp, it can be Zoom. You don't even have to be in the same country. You can just sort of do it internationally. And I remember one of my groups I taught last year, there were students in Canada and India and England, and they set up a WhatsApp group, the Canadian students who would do, because they were in the same time zone. So they set up a WhatsApp group so the Canadians would all study together. The Asian students who were in India decided to set up their group. And, it worked because people had a common interest and it really motivated them. So I think it's really important you take this opportunity and you have a brilliant study experience by working with the resources that you've got, you and other people in a study group. So let's see if we have any comments or ideas that people have thrown at us. If not, we'll go to our emails. Okay, so no comments on live stream at the moment, but we do have a comment from Jag. Jag says, hi Suzanne, nice to hear you this week. Jag, nice to hear you this week as well. Jag says, I have a problem with proactivity. Okay, here we go. It's always a problem. Jag says, I have a problem with proactivity. I have all the best intentions to be proactive and somehow I lose my mojo and it just doesn't happen. Okay, so last week, remember we talked about how you have to time manage, how you have to motivate yourself, setting up your study group, being committed to turning up to the study group prepared is essential. So I remember when I was a student, we had like a revision study group. And yeah, I remember a boyfriend who wasn't always as prepared as the other people in the group, but we had to kick him out. There has to be rules to a study group, right? We're going to discuss this topic. When we meet, everybody's going to do their preparation. It can't be a situation where you're not prepared and you just go there to copy someone else's notes. It's got to be about everybody contributing and working together to get a better understanding of the subject, to look at it from different perspectives, and to have a genuine meeting of minds and discussions. The sort of things that you would do in your workshop activity, but you're doing it in your WhatsApp or your Zoom group. So look, Jag, you have to manage your time so that you're prepared, that you commit the time to doing what it is necessary to stay in that study group. And there is no short answer to this. You just got to be disciplined. At the end of the day, it's your choice, your future, your career. If you don't make the time and the discipline now, what's it going to be like when you finish your degree? What's it going to be like when you finish your professional exams? Will you even get there? Okay, that's the reality of what's going on here. Because imagine that you're not being committed, you're not working with a study group, you're not expanding the detailed knowledge that you're taking from your seminars and your lectures. You're just sort of coasting, right? There's these other groups out there who are in study groups, who are pushing it, who are understanding the topic. What do you think they're going to get? They're going to get the better grades, the better job offers. And unfortunately, Jag, you ain't going to be up there with them. So you have the choice now. Everything's about free will and choice. Choose to make the most of your degree. That's what Areeba said. Make the most of your degree. You spend a lot of money and a lot of time at university. Why not come out with the best degree that you possibly can? And it's about taking control and making sure that you know your subject inside out and back to front. Email the tutors if you're confused. Have your study groups so that you can discuss and debate things with other people. And when you go to your workshops, ask questions. I say to my students, ask questions. If you don't understand something, the quickest and best way of learning is to pinpoint what it is that you don't understand. Not open questions like, I don't get this subject. Look at the subject, revise the subject, study the subject, tell your tutor what specifically about this subject you don't get. Questions like, well, could you just explain that? No, you should read the topic. You should understand what it is you don't understand so that you can ask the specific question. I've read this, I understand that, but what I don't understand is this. Could you explain that? That's the way that you ask questions. That's the way that you learn. So I encourage you to make sure that you look at taking ownership of your study and make sure that you increase what you're doing so that you maximize your experience at university and make the most of your degree, as Areeba said. Okay, so do we have a question? Yes, we do. Hello, Christine. Thank you. Some great points made already. And Duke Quick promotes attaching emotions to learning and explains how it all sticks much better for you. Okay, so when you're motivated, you're passionate about a subject, when you feel engaged with the subject, clearly you're going to remember it. You're going to want to learn more about it. If you just say, well, this subject's boring, I'm not really interested, guess what? That's how it's going to feel. It's going to be like wading through treacle to try and understand that subject. If you have a positive attitude, if you have really highly motivated and you feel that this is a subject that you really understand and you're emotionally invested in it, you're going to enjoy it more. And I really like Areeba saying, what they did in this group is they discovered their passion for the subject of law. It sort of reinforced why they wanted to do it. They got to discuss subjects in the sort of angles and at the sort of level that they wanted to discuss it in the detail. And all of that combined to make them really appreciate the advantage of studying law. There's lots of people who study law because their parents or somebody else wants them to study law. But that's not going to get you through to getting the best degree. There has to be some internal passion for the subject. And it doesn't matter whether you're studying a civil subject or a criminal subject. The principles of learning new information, getting better at understanding how the law all fits together, that's what's got to motivate you. And with those subjects that you struggle, the really weird thing is that the more difficult they are, the more you struggle with them to get to the bottom of it, eventually when it clicks, you end up liking the subject. So for me, I remember when I was doing the equivalent of the GDL, we had trusts. There was a very complicated trust involving a family. I think it was called Regal Birnican, I think it was a long time ago. And it was a really complicated trust structure to avoid the rules so that it wouldn't be an invalid trust. And we struggled to understand it. And we'd be in our study group going, right, okay, we understand part one of this trust. Then we got to part two, and then we got to part three. And then suddenly, oh my God, we get it. We get why this trust works. We get why it doesn't offend any of the rules that make trusts illegal. And it was like, aha, finally we get it. Sometimes you just have to struggle at understanding the law. Once you struggle, but do persevere and understand the law, it makes sense. You get the aha. And ultimately, it makes you a better lawyer, because what you're reinforcing in yourself is that determination, reading, critical thinking, rereading, critical thinking, group discussions ultimately makes you a more knowledgeable person. Okay, so what else have we got to say for today? Well, okay, we're going to take one more email, and this is from Shireen. Shireen says, hi, Suzanne. Nice to see you this Wednesday. Shireen, lovely to see you, although I can't see you. Shireen says, I love the idea of proactivity. How many study groups do you think you need to join? Okay, Shireen, that's a good question. I think ultimately I would say that if you're studying with people on your course, then it may be that you find that there are groups of people that you like to study for certain subjects, and other people that you like to study for other subjects. Okay, so it may be that you have different study groups depending on the subject. Alternately, if you're all on the same course, you all feel that you're committed, you're invested, you all work hard, then it may be you just have one study group and you study with that group for all the different subjects that you're going to take. Or if you're doing option subjects, you have your study group for your core subjects, and then you have different study groups for your option subjects where you all share that option. But I think it's really important. It's not so much about the number of study groups that you have, is that you work with people who you feel are committed to the study group. There will be times when people will be more knowledgeable than others. It's not about trying to work with the people that you think are the really brilliant people in your class. It's about working with people who are committed to turning up to the study group, to preparing for the study group, and being prepared to openly and honestly discuss the subject so that everybody in the group benefits. And, what you don't want is someone who's just going to be in the study group and just wants to take everyone else's notes. That is a big no-no. And also be prepared. Like if you find somebody like that, kick them out the group. Ultimately, your study group should benefit everybody in that group, and everybody should be contributing to it. And I give you one caveat about study groups. Once it comes to assessment period and the assessment paper has been released, you cannot work in your study groups if the paper is a paper that you have to complete on your own. So if it's a paper where you go and sit an assessment, fine, you can still work in your study groups. But if it's an assessment paper that you're going to do at home, where it has to be all your own work, once that paper is out, do not keep working in your study group, because you run the risk then of your institution saying that you've collaborated with other people to do this assessment. Okay, so that's a one caveat about study group. All during term time study groups are great and fine and helpful. For revision, study groups are fantastic, but do not use your study group to help you design an answer to a question, an assessment question that you do at home. That is a no-no. Anyway, I want to say a special shout out and thank you to Areeba for bringing up this topic. It is such a worthwhile topic to bring up. I hope you take all of the lovely information that Areeba's provided and that you put it into place now. Don't wait for your third year or your fourth year. Put it in place now. And as Areeba says, make the most out of your degree by setting up a study group. I'm Suzanne, the study coach. It's wonderful to speak to you. I will see you next week for Wednesday webinar. Oh, and we've got a live speaker and special guest with us next week. Okay, take care. Have a wonderful week and a fantastic bank holiday.